Wow, perfect. I was going to check if this was on, but we got it. Will everybody check if yours is on? A little test.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I think we're good.
I'm just filling time. So here we are. We made it to the end of, it's the, second to last panel within our 3 days here at RETCON. So we're going to try and be as lively as possible to keep you all awake. And ready for networking later. My name is Francesca Loftus. I lead operations and strategy at EliseAI. Thank you for the shout out earlier. We are going to be talking a little bit about how to optimize operations in property management today. We've got some great experts here that will introduce themselves in 1 minute. I wanted to talk a little bit briefly about the space. A lot of the technologies that we're talking about today are a little bit different in that recently what has been popular in the space has been technologies that are not Excel, right? Not very simple to implement, have a far deeper impact in your business than a simple SaaS off-the-shelf product. And so we're going to talk a little bit about not just how to optimize and kind of success stories, but we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges of implementing these tools and the realities of the investment into these implementations and all the people management and change management that goes along with implementing really successful, high-impact tools into the operations of these businesses. So it won't all be sunshine and rainbows is basically what I'm saying. We're going to be really realistic up here. So before you just let me talk for the rest of the 45 minutes, I'm going to pass it to each of these folks here on the panel to introduce themselves, a little bit about the lens that they see this topic through, as in what they do for the day-to-day and how these technologies impact them.
Sure, I'm Adam Meshekow. I'm a co-founder of Leap. We are a deposit alternative and rent guarantee product, and we work here domestically in the US and the UK. We work with about 3 million homes across a lot of different asset classes, single-family rental, purpose-built student housing, and conventional multifamily. And I'm here to talk about optimizing solutions and turning a cost center into a profit center.
Hi, everyone. Again, it's Malhari. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Veris Residential. We're a publicly listed multifamily REIT focused on the Northeast, around 7,500 units, which we largely manage, owner, operator, developer. We have been very busy over the last year or so, year and a half, in implementing quite a lot from across the stack. So we're facing some of the challenges Francesca mentioned, and we're looking forward to the discussion today.
Hi, my name is Maja Sofic, and I'm with CIM Group. CIM is an owner, operator, lender, and developer with about $30 billion under ownership and management. I am the first vice president for our asset operations across all product types, so not a busy person at all. And we what Anna just mentioned as well, had a very busy year as it relates to technology, so I'm here to share all that with you and make sure you're not asleep.
We'll all work on that collectively. So obviously, all these tools, this kind of surge of new solutions, technology solutions in the space, are at their core solutions. So let's talk a little bit about the problems that are at the forefront of your businesses and what you think is most important for you all at this time to solve with technology.
Okay, I can take that and then I'll let you both chime in. Look, I think when we think about technology in real estate, from my perspective in multifamily, we should really think about why we need it. And in my mind, there are 3 categories for us. It's the customer needs, it's the residents' needs, it's driven by the market, and then for us, it's also ESG and sustainability. On the customer side, if we're honest with each other, and you've heard this over and over the last few days, we're kind of behind as an industry. A lot of the things we're talking about here that are innovative are not that innovative at all. Chatbots have been around for a long time. And what we're really trying to do is to alter our proposition to our residents to what they're used to from every other product and brand they interact with. as an example, think about literally booking something. You want to call a restaurant or you want to book it on OpenTable or Resi? And why shouldn't the residents have the prospects have the same options when they come to your buildings? The second piece is the broader market, pressure on NOI. I think all of us are looking into solutions that increase revenue, reduce expenses, drive the bottom line, in particular as we've been operating in a high inflationary environment and labor shortages and a lot of other stuff that we'll talk about a bit later. And the third piece for us is sustainability. We're very focused on ESG, and technology really enables us not just to measure, but to really drive down emissions, utility costs, energy consumption in a much smarter way than we were able to before.
Anna?
Very similar to Maya.
No,
Hold on.
Anna, thank
Anna.
you.
Oh.
Maya?
Very similar to Anna, and in addition to, for us, is efficiencies, right? Market is saturated. You want to stay as innovative as possible, as efficient as possible, so we're all seeking those technology solutions that are going to, make us different, make us better, make us faster in today's environment, basically. So, plain and simple.
What are you seeing in your customer base?
I mean, in our customer base, I think we're starting to see rent growth kind of pause. So I think everyone's really focused on how can I drive incremental NOI in different ways. And I would say that most of our customer base, our product is a free product for owners and operators. It's paid for by the resident. And a lot of our clients today are using our products today to not only drive ancillary revenue, but to do true risk transfer, so to ultimately impact the bottom line. So reducing bad debt, increasing NOI, and driving essentially incremental revenue to their bottom line through ancillary services, but also driving incremental occupancy in some markets that they're having issues.
I saw you lift your mic, Anna. Did you have a follow-up?
No.
Great. Can we talk a little bit about how you choose technologies, how you plan for pilots, and how you look at what to prioritize? You listed 3 things, for example, Anna. How do those force rank?
So it's a great question, actually, because we're trying to do a lot at once and sometimes probably too much at once, as a lot of people on my team here would agree with. But it has to be based on priorities, like what's the biggest priority for the business at that moment? Is it driving the revenue? And in that case, that would be looking at some of the revenue share options. Or is it actually, we don't have an app and we need an app because we want the residents to have a better experience? Or it's probably a mix of both. We tend to pilot everything. I think we all agree that wherever possible, that's a good way to trial out new technology. And give it some time, reflect, but however, for us after that, because we're still relatively small, we usually go portfolio-wide pretty quickly. So we try to be very thoughtful in initial phases and due diligence, ask a lot of questions before we even move ahead. But then once we do, we tend to move pretty quickly and kind of move on to the next thing.
For us is identifying the issue that you're trying to solve for, right? So is it tenant engagement, resident engagement, security deposit solution, no matter what it was or is. Surrounding that, we create a working group and start the conversations. So it's the initial demo after demo after demo. We're very extensive in research as well, because I've learned over the years in implementing various solutions that if you don't ask the question, it'll come later, and then you're going to have a problem, and you're not going to know, well, this part integrates, but this one doesn't. So then you're kind of stuck. So, over the years, I've tried to write down everything that has come up, just for my personal edification, and kind of have it on my list, to ask a lot of questions. And our working groups, we always ensure that we have a representative from each kind of department or team that is going to touch that new tool. So is it the actual, representative of the on-site staff, right? Then somebody from the ops team, IT team. If it has anything to do with data, even our FP&A team, for example. So that way you can get different points of view. And then we start the due diligence, we go through all the demos and then pilot. We always pilot as well, at least 60 to 90 days. Try to pilot with different types of buildings. If it's just a multifamily solution, then at least different types of properties, right? Smaller, larger, B, A+, to kind of see how the different demographics would react to the tool, right? And to try to tweak it if you can. So, and then after that, once the pilot is done, we have an executive committee where we present the solution, the recommendation to move forward, and then from there, we hit the ground running, and then it's fast and furious.
Actually, just one more comment, integration, and it's nothing new for anyone here.
Absolutely.
I think there's like a few threshold questions where Yardi shop, if it doesn't talk to Yardi, like we probably will pass on, unless it's something really, really critical that we have a gap on. And similar to a few other key partners for us, we just want to make sure more and more increasingly actually that everything talks together as much as it can, because the search for this one unified solutions for your residents, for your teams, fewer dashboards, fewer everything is really there, and that's becoming one of the key drivers of what to move ahead with or not.
I would absolutely agree with that. Integration is key.
I'll just add in, like, I think people say integration is key, but like a real integration is different than just an integration. And I think really scoping that and understanding the needs of our clients is the most important aspect of our business. About half the staff has all worked on site, so they know exactly what it's like to do the things that you just mentioned, opening up multiple dashboards, going off platform and then going back into platform, et cetera. So I think, for us, it's about creating innovative solutions to meet the needs of the customer. It's not just like create a security deposit solution that everyone else has. It's about creating a security deposit that's going to take essentially time or give the time back for the on-site teams, be an effective product that's both a benefit to the owner operator and the consumer or the resident. And then also understand and kind of build those products together or build those integrations together. I think our key to success has been working with some of the largest property management companies in the space and really understanding what the pain points were in V1 and always innovating that. And we continue to do that on a quarterly basis, on a sprint basis.
Thinking back to tools you've invested in implementing that have then broken down and you have not, the pilot has not worked out, you've not moved forward. We just talked a little bit about integrations. You could have the integration, but in function, is it everything you need? Properly speaking back to each other. What else leads to a pilot not succeeding?
I would say maybe negative feedback as well from your various teams that you have involved, people that are part of your team that's working on the pilot, not being able to solve for that issue that you're trying to solve for, and it's not quite there. We personally had that happen plenty of times in the past where it's almost there, but it's not there. So it's just like, what do you do at that point? And we've decided several times to pull the plug. Unfortunately, you do waste resources. It's not efficient at all, but sometimes it's for the best. So I think feedback is key. The ease of the platform, the way even from these various companies, right, that are presenting these tools and that we're getting these tools from, just the implementation on their part and how they're helping you as the customer go through the implementation is very important. So sometimes, look, like we've all been part of these sales pitches, right? And if the sales pitch is good, you're going to buy in. It's just what it is. And then later, potentially, you can solve for issues that come. But I think feedback and the ease of use and training can break it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I would just say sometimes it doesn't work out even when you fully implement it because you just didn't see something or you saw it will work and it just becomes too much of an obstacle. And what Maya, you said, still pull the plug if you have to. Don't be scared of that. It's painful. It's more resources. No one wants to go all over with onboarding of new things. But it's probably still better than the pain points your teams would feel on a daily basis, or your residents or other stakeholders if you don't do that. So I think it's a hard decision sometimes, but it may be worthwhile if you're at a point where it just doesn't work out.
And how do you prep your teams for a pilot or a new technology, change in workflow? How do you think about prepping your people?
Be positive, number one. Come excited, and that's the best weapon. And just, prove the concept of what you're trying to, again, solve for, right? Say, this is how this will benefit us, benefit the company, benefit, your day-to-day, less admin, and really show why it's so valuable. And then, again, have them involved and celebrate the wins, if there are any. But yes, have them involved and show people that their feedback really matters, which it does, right? Like, I'll remember to click on something, maybe you'll remember to click on something else and break it or say, oh, this works great. And I think more heads together is better, so. But excitement, number one.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but I think we're all aware that there's a lot being rolled out all the time across the teams, and the fatigue is real.
Oh, for sure.
And we need to be a bit more thoughtful. And it's really, I think that's where it's hard to strike the right balance between including teams really early on and maybe even having them part of the demos, but then you don't want them to be on demos all the time because they have real jobs. And it's just finding the right mix of people to be involved at the right time is one of the hardest things about continuously developing and innovating, because then it just probably feels to the on-site team sometimes like they're just going from one implementation to the other and backwards, even if you explain why and it makes their life better ultimately, but I feel their pain.
I mean, I think first thing is making it easy for the on-site teams. You have to start there. I think if it's not an easy solution, or if it's a bolt-on solution or off-platform, or unless it's absolutely necessary, I think the on-site teams have so much going on that it becomes cumbersome for them. The second is there's so much turnover on-site. So training one person and then getting them to implement the product, and then the next month that the staff turns over or the on-site team turns over, you have to make it really kind of simple and easy for them to use and create it kind of in the training and the SOPs is kind of the key to success. The second is, change is hard, especially in my space. It's really a disruption of that space. So I would say find your internal champion. I think back to some of the early days, and I remember there was this leasing director that hated this product and said it was more difficult to lease and so forth. 3 years later, they had the highest occupancy they ever had. They sold over half the portfolio at the highest kind of NOI increase they've ever seen in the history of the company, and they've been doing this for 45 years. So, and she's still there. And it went from I hate Leap to I love Leap. And she became a champion, our champion internally. But I'd say embrace change. That's the key. And sometimes you have to share strategic goals of the company in order for the on-site teams or the regional teams to embrace that change.
Yeah, continuing on the theme of staff, we talked a lot about labor shortage, retention challenges. Talk about how technology is helping you navigate through current labor challenges and the existing environment.
I think technology actually could help with that tremendously, because you can, I think, attract great talent by giving that talent the tools they need to be very successful at their job, right? Because if you have technology solutions for a portion of it, or technology solution, for example, in leasing to help with leads and so on, then that star leasing agent or a director can focus on the people aspect of it, to close the sales, actually, to build that rapport with their customer. So I think absolutely, I think technology can help a lot in solving for the labor shortage.
I agree, but I think there's one part, and it's not true for all the jobs, that as we implement more and more technology, it just changes the requirements on the job. And that may be less apparent on the operational side, where there's a lot of young people working there, more tech-savvy people overall. But think about maintenance. Like, there's a lot of tools out there now to start centralizing maintenance, work orders management, things like that. And there's just skills that historically were not a priority when hiring for those positions. So there's a lot more training required on that side. Really, I think, again, positioning that this is great for them, that it creates the efficiencies Maja talked about, makes their job actually easier, but it's a bit harder to get a buy-in. And I think over time, we will see change requirements on who we are hiring, implementing the tech further into the hiring decisions. But I don't see it fully yet kind of reducing the pressure on hiring the right people or widely bridging gaps for hiring needs, at least not for us in our space.
Agreed. I don't think you can ever like fully replace it, but could be
Robots
helpful.
were going to replace all our jobs about like 10 years ago.
What do the labor shortages feel like inside your business right now, just for context? Not a prepped question, sorry.
I think there's still the right people out there. It's just, as Adam mentioned earlier, there's turnover in this industry, at least for some positions. And it's more about finding the right people. And I think that's where centralizing certain things, we're doing things slightly differently. We launched, we now have a floating leasing team, for example, that can help fill in some of the gaps and give us time to hire the right fit for the company and the right skill set. Like, that's been successful for us. But it's hard. It's not as bad as it was probably a year and a half ago, where we had much higher retention issues, mainly on the maintenance side again. But it's just finding the right people who are motivated about doing the job and are willing to take on all this change management that's coming their way as well.
I agree with that 100%. It's about finding the right fit, the right people for the job. And, we all should be honest, and we know that things have changed since the pandemic, and the landscape is just not what it was in terms of everything in any industry. So I think our industry is a very, very high turnover industry, and it's just hard to keep up with it, right? So that's the challenge in itself.
You want me to talk?
You go ahead.
This is just my view looking on the outside, not having a full career in real estate. Real estate's very reactionary. We've seen more change in the last 5 years than probably the last 100 years in looking at multifamily real estate and operations. And I think that trend's not going anywhere. It's going to continue. And if you're not in it, you'll be left behind. I was in retail at one point, and I saw that happen, right? And, I'll say, we're starting to see this kind of, we're starting to see the centralization happen, with centralized services. But, something happened last year with, the biggest REIT, and we got to see that actually happen, right? Gables took some of the centralized aspects and moved it to AVB, who's been doing centralization for years, I think 18 years, and they're very buttoned up when it comes to kind of processes and SOPs. So I think, centralization has changed post-COVID, and I think there's definitely room to kind of decrease OpEx there. And I think you're going to continue to see that trend with products like yourself and, seeing kind of virtual leasing. I think the actual customer journey has changed. That journey is no longer like, I see an apartment, I go look at it, I see if it meets my price, I go talk to a leasing agent, that leasing agent
Absolutely.
sells me on how great of a community it is. Like, that's changed. And consumer journey in general is not really consumer journey. It's really like right time, right place, and frequency. And if there's tools to get that done faster, and the intent to purchase is there, I think you'll kind of continue to see that change, and that centralizations will continue to happen as this business evolves.
Maja, you want to jump in there?
No, just 100% agreed. I think that the cycle and the workflow, right, and the leasing has completely changed. I think it's a completely different game. Not at its core, right, but like that journey is changing. Before, you couldn't wait to go out and when I would look for an apartment, see the apartment and feel the community and meet the manager. Now, not so much. Now I want to just get it all done online as soon as I can, and tell me everything. How can I pay? How can I move it online? Could you move me in as well? So it's different. Times are different, but I think that's okay. We're evolving with the times. We have to.
No one wanted to do self-guided tours pre-COVID.
Right.
And then COVID happened, everyone does pre-guided tours.
Exactly.
Wow, it worked, I think there's a lot of that going on, but people realize that there are very good technology solutions that people want, and people will change their behavior and use.
I 90% agree with that. Let's put it that way. And I think we'll touch base on that.
That is
Heating up, disagreements. Let's go.
No, but look, I definitely think the journey is changing, but I think all these things we've just heard about, they're complementary, right? I don't think they're ever gonna fully replace, at least not in our case, we're in a Class A space. It's never gonna fully replace the experience that our prospects or residents have with the on-site teams. Is there space to make it more efficient? Sure, but to what Maja said earlier, that means the star leasers can actually focus on leasing more because now they don't have that much admin. And maybe they can do it across multiple sites, or they can do something else, spend more time with the residents, or have a completely different role. But we still see people calling. We still see people opting for in-person tours over virtual tours or self-guided tours. But we need to give them all the options. I fully agree with that. If it's 10 p.m. and you just got to the apartment search you were delaying for so long, you want to be able to book your tour online. You don't want to wait until 9 a.m. the next day because you would forget by then and you'd have a Zoom call anyway, so you wouldn't be able to do that. But you want to have the option. Or maybe you do the first portion self-guided, but then you want to bring your spouse in and you want to do that in person to spend a bit more time in. So I think it's complementary. It's just giving a frictionless, more seamless, more thorough experience to the prospect. And the same goes for the residents, giving them the tools to communicate through technology, but also have someone on site if something goes wrong that they can reach out to on the maintenance side, et cetera. So I do think we'll see more and more efficiencies in this space, but I never see at least us going fully 100% the other way.
What about on the sales side? What about on the leasing side?
On the leasing side? If I think we'll ever be no people, no.
No.
So, if I asked this room, would anyone buy a car 10 years ago online? Everyone would probably say no. But today, probably the majority of the room would say yes. No?
I don't agree with that. That's why what is it called, the caravan or whatever?
Everyone's
They're
shaking
all
their head.
sitting
We
empty
got
now.
5 minutes and then it's Q&A, I
what
promise.
about-
You'll get your moment. You'll get your moment.
What about
Everybody
buying
leave the room
clothes?
now.
What about buying clothes? Everyone in here doesn't buy clothes online?
Yes, but you want to have the option. Sometimes I want to have the experience to go in the store. That doesn't mean, but I want to have both.
I think we're still far behind. I saw this in retail, right? I saw this in consumer behavior.
But we still have physical shops, even today.
When you book a vacation, do you physically visit that place, or do you read the reviews? Or if you book an Airbnb, I think my view is some behavior is changing, and it's a slow sediment to change. But I think over time, the next generation of renter will be fully automated. I do believe that. At least on the leasing side, not on the service side, not on all that side, but on the leasing side, I do believe that.
What we see is also asset type, right? If you are renting a dorm for next year, right? Student has centralized a lot faster than conventional multifamily, single family. Well, actually, single family is a great example of also having to centralize. But in student, you're renting for next year, there's limited options, you're far more likely to rent sight unseen. So it could just depend on the demographic, the asset type.
Asset type A multifamily, I think, will be the last to go, in my opinion.
Right, and again, I would agree with, both, but I don't know that it's going to go away fully. I think, however, it will automate quite a lot. We're right there, right? Okay, you have the bots, the intelligence, the AI, this, that. We have all of these tools, but also then there's the good old sales, right? That sales pitch, which I love a good sales pitch. That will get me excited any day, right, with anything. So I think there's that touch to it too. It depends on the consumer too. And you're right, with the next generation of renters, we might see it. We just don't know yet.
We don't see it yet.
Yeah, we might see it. We don't know, right? I guess I would like to say I hate to see it fully go away, right? Like, I don't know, but maybe.
And you have examples, sorry, when it
Yeah.
went fully away. Like, we're not there yet, and I don't think we'll be there, and maybe that's just the Class A aspect, or maybe we'll change our mind in a year. But there are buildings around us which went that way, that you're only self-guided, there's no one there apart from a concierge. But it's just a different experience. It's a different product as a result of it. So it just depends on what fits your brand, what experience are you trying to offer the residents, and take it from there and move quicker or slower depending on the objectives you have as a business. But it is out there. There's options out there already today where there's no one on site.
Right, but we also have to be cognizant that technology itself does break at times, right? So then there's that too. So what are you going to do if the self-thing lock?
And it's not all things to all people. Like some of the kind of fully remote, centralized kind of communities, even brand new build-up communities I've seen out in multifamily, DC suburbs, Jersey suburbs, et cetera, mostly commuter towns. They do really well, but it's a different demographic. It's not a plus class product in some of your markets, right? So I think it really depends. But I do think the model is there, and I would ask you, Francesca, like,
Yeah, what do you think?
what do you see?
I'm just a moderator. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, this is your business. What do you see today?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, we definitely see single family out of necessity, just the scale, fully centralized, fully automated touring. Then I guess a step behind is student, the ability to work with a population that's renting far afield. Normally is either international or not in the city in which they're renting, so touring in person is hard anyways, far more likely to rent sight unseen. And then, a couple steps behind is multifamily, but we do see, based on the asset type, like you said, Class A, people want to see the finishes. They want to touch the apartment itself before they rent it.
Check the water pressure.
Absolutely check the water pressure. What am I thinking? I haven't rented an apartment recently, clearly. I wanted to talk a little bit more. We're on the topic already about how humans successfully partner with technology. What do you, when you're rolling something out, what do you say their role is? What do you need from a property that is piloting? How do they partner really well with these new technologies?
I think we've kind of somewhat touched base on it already. It's about explaining the why, and that oftentimes is really to make their life easier, to kind of overcome some of the fear out there that may be like, oh, AI is coming, I'll be out of a job tomorrow. It's communication, I think, is the bottom line. And like, there's a lot of good stuff out there that really helps. Like we talked about the out of hours, but it can also be like the teams just are busy, as we discussed. So maybe they're on tour, they're doing other stuff. So someone else picking up the phone for them, or the chatbot answering and booking, like it helps, it creates efficiencies. And I think people are starting to see it more and more from the sites and understand that and embrace it a lot better. So I think it's getting easier once you get through the initial phase. I think the additional products are then a bit easier to roll out because they understand it can be a good thing.
Agreed. 100%. Adam?
What does a successful human partnership look like?
I think being transparent is key, and I don't see enough of this. I think from a leadership standpoint, being transparent on why you're kind of implementing this pilot and what your plans are and what it does for the overall business. I think the people on the ground are so focused on getting their day-to-day and their kind of to-do list done because they're so busy, and they don't understand the why. And they say, they're rolling out some new thing. I don't really know what it is, but it's supposed to help us. They don't really understand, like, what does it do for our business? What is the cost savings for our business? How does it help NOI for this building? How does it make this building make more money as an asset? What does that do for the overall company's objective if you're a, value add and sell or a long-term hold or whatever it does? I think actually explaining that across the board is really important. I don't think that's done enough. I think, they're so much focused on the task and they don't understand the strategy behind it. That's my view.
Oh, these organic transitions. Thank you so much. Talk to me about about data. What insights have you gained from implementing new technologies, things you were never able to measure before? What insights in your business have these implementations unlocked?
I think the data piece is great about the technology, and it's exactly what you said. And it's starting to get, to measure better some of the kind of hard data, let's say, out there, but also to start getting a better grasp of some of the softer things, right? Like to be able to say, like, hey, over the last 2 weeks, 10 people complained about this amenity not working, or something else, or even something around the community. And you have now an actionable thing to go to your teams about and say, hey, someone should look into this because it keeps popping up. Work orders, much better way to analyze the why. How quickly is it happening after a turn? Why is it happening again? There's just a lot of data out there. When it comes to renewals, having just the whole prospect journey or the resident journey in one place and knowing exactly if they ever had an issue, how often they interacted with the team, what do they care about. We didn't have that before. So we have now tons of data to be able to act upon, and I think over the next year or two, this will get more and more advanced, and we'll all get collectively much better in analyzing it, and actually even asking our vendors for, we really want this data, because that's important for us as a business. Can you pull that out for us, et cetera? And then calibrating, tailoring the models to respond better and better what our specific demographics need, building by building.
Data. We truly live in a data-driven world today. Like it's all about data. I bet all of us get, daily calls and requests. Give me this number, give me that number, give me this statistic. And I think reporting, right? Like reporting and analytics is so important. And I think that that's what technology is also helping us solve for. And with that, having good data, you can, have better, reporting for your executives, basically it helps you also understand the current stage of your asset, right? And then also be able to project out and trend where it's going, right? Your revenue, your expenses, renewal probability. I mean, there's so much out there that evolves around technology and data. I think it's very, very closely kind of integrated and stuck together. So I think it's great.
I promised some people in the front row here that there'd be time for Q&A. We've got 7 minutes left. Don't all get shy now. Does anybody have any questions for our esteemed panelists here? I think someone's bringing you a mic. I don't know why I thought I'd throw mine at you. It's like, don't worry, I got it. We almost got through with no injuries, and then...
Have you seen any relationship or correlation between the people using tech, both in the tenant side and employees, and their relationship? Like, are there better tenants? Like, if you implement this self-guiding, are they taking better care of the apartments? Are on the other side people that are working that are difficult with technology? Are they having to do an extra to compensate for not being that guy that it's the champion for a product or for an implementation?
I'll take that, because my product by default is I get that question every single sales pitch, right? Like, you're taking my declined residents under my screening and you want to take on that risk and put them in my building. And, the truth is that the majority of them are good tenants. And, you have to look at the macro environment to understand what's going on, right? Rent has increased at the fastest rate it's ever increased in the last 3 years. Incomes have not. Rental fraud is at an all-time high. Why? Because people can't qualify for apartments, because they don't make enough money to qualify with the rent growth. And, these aren't bad people. Some of these people, are perfectly good tenants, and we take on that risk. Maybe landlords are not willing to take on that risk, Maybe the investors or institutional owners aren't willing to take on that risk because they're trying to manage to a bad debt or a cap rate that they're trying to exit. But ultimately, that question gets asked to me all the time. So, from our perspective, we feel that our rent guarantee product is an adverse selected product. So by default, we're getting adversely selected, right? So some of them will be bad, and that's the business we're in. But most of them are actually good tenants, and most of them are just as good, if not better, tenants than qualified tenants. So hopefully that answers a piece of your question. They could probably answer it better for the others.
No, I think it raises a really interesting question on once you're a resident. Like if all this technology will help with retention or reduce retention. Like, are we better off having maybe AI, but it communicates with you more regularly, so you're still more in touch with the property, or does losing that human touch make you actually less connected to the community per se? I think it's a bit early to say, but it will be interesting how that plays out and how that changes some of the strategies in the space over time. And I think there's a lot of data out there now that when it comes to renewals, the most important thing is that the residents have communicated in one shape or form with someone at the building. And if it was a positive or negative experience, actually doesn't really matter, but just that interaction made them much more likely to stay from the data. So maybe that's where technology can help us, because it can reach out more proactively. And if it's done right, it may replace some of it, but I think the jury is still out on that from my perspective.
I would say for us, we've seen it on both sides. For example, on tenant engagement, right, and resident engagement, we've seen the ability to foster better communities by using technology, right, by implementing these various apps, or one app, that promotes kind of resident interaction, and it provides like a better sense of community where you can do these, contests and post stuff on there, and like it does like a whole lot of things, right? So, there's various products out there to do that, but I think it actually helped us because our residents are more engaged. We see that, and we have data, right? Reporting data that supports that and shows us that, but our residents are super engaged and are sharing, dog walkers, or, are saying, hey, let's meet up at the 5 o'clock, they're doing wine, at the local restaurant. So I think that's kind of something that's like, is out there today, is like just fostering those relationships, and that's kind of what also makes you a little innovative and different, right? Because we said at the beginning we're all trying to be that by using technology. We've seen that for sure. So the ability to create better foster communities. But then we've also seen it on the leasing side with AI, right? We're kind of still, again, in the early stages with AI, but it's like, you're a potential resident, right? And you're looking for an apartment, and you go on the website, and then, AI pops up and says, hi, how can I help you today, right? And you're engaged right away. So we've seen some, call it interest spike from that side as well.
I think the other interesting thing you mentioned, like self-guided tours, and what we're debating a lot recently is, so you're on the tour and you don't love everything. If you're on your own, there's no one there to tell you, hey, but look at this view, or look at this amenity space, and to kind of overcome the objections. And again, it's a bit too early to say if that will play a major role, but I think there's a reason why the human touch and the the really well-performing salespeople, leasing specialists are so successful in what they're doing, and we'll see how that all plays out for customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I don't think you just implement self-guided tours and suddenly everybody's a better renter, but I think there are secondary, tertiary goals that your team doesn't have time to manage as a human. Like we see it in student a ton. If you have a guarantor assigned on your resident card, you're far more, you're an on-time payer, you're a better tenant. And sometimes
I work for
fighting.
23 of the top 25 operators, so I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Well, it's not always available to the teams to go and follow up and get this additional guarantor information.
Right.
And so
Who
if
wants
the
to do it?
AI can go and do that for you, then you can take off some of
Absolutely, and
these
those are-
goals
yeah,
without
very
putting
useful
humans behind
things.
them.
For sure.
I'd imagine you could say Elise makes better residents. That would be awesome, right?
We'd never go that far.
Take it back to your marketing.
Me, Elise?
We have 2 seconds left, so there are no other questions that I can take. And look, perfect timing.
No, I always interrupt, don't I?
You don't even get the red
This has
flash
been great,
yet.
so let's give them a round of applause. Thank y'all so much.